Moving forward, we are on item 6A, and this is discussion and possible action, including direction to the Agricultural Department to collect and publish pesticide application details, including chemical agent, quantity, and assessor parcel numbers. Supervisor Williams, you brought this forward. You're the sponsor. Please introduce the item.
So it came to my attention that the Ag Department already collects this data. What's missing is today for the public to get a hold, they have to do a Public Records Act request. And so this item is really about adding transparency to county government. And I don't see it being a cost to the Ag Department in time. They're already collecting the data. Once the script is set up to extract it and generate a web report, shouldn't be any ongoing work. In fact, it should save potential Public Records Act requests. The one piece that may be missing is the location today is not stored as an APN as far as we can determine. There may be some conversion there. The point is, if hundreds of gallons of poison are being used upstream from residents, they should have the right to know. They may want to consider water tests. The APN is the most reasonable way to determine proximate location to use.
Okay, well, I think they give quadrants, or
They
not exact locations.
Correct, but given the complexity and expense of a water test, immediate neighbors may want to know where the use is. And so generalizing that puts residents in a position of expending dollars on tests when they're actually not close, they're not downstream. So I'm asking for a more precise location using an APN.
And I don't think there's I'd just like to have input as well, that I don't think there's a county in the state that actually does APNs, and neither is it required through the Department of Pesticide Regulation. And I do know that you do need a PRA request in order to get the information, but I believe that's because of the PIN numbers that go in as the reporting takes place electronically. And I think we're talking about approximately 200 entities that have permits if they're going to make a pesticide application. And I think there's approximately 50 reports a month. And if you have used any type of even organic, like dusting material, that all has to be reported. And then it has to also include at some point an inspection by the Agricultural Department to go in and make sure that that is a type of application that can be made by the applicator. And I know it gets very complicated, but I do see it as a cost to the county. I don't know as though there's the personnel within the Ag Department to handle this. So just for comment back, Supervisor?
So I would like clarification on where that cost would be. Today, the Ag Department does collect this data. And so setting up a script to generate web reports seems like a one-time information services endeavor. And I don't see where there would be ongoing staff time. Can you explain?
Well, yes, I can, because you're also asking for a posting within 15 days, I believe.
Yes, but if it's automated, this doesn't require any human intervention.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily. You're going to have to go in and get it and have staff to work on that.
So what I'm suggesting here in this recommended action is that it be automated. I'm not asking for any ongoing staff time.
Well, I still think it's going to take staff time, but we may get some clarification on that. Supervisor McCowan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I note that we have Ag Commissioner Graywall present. We might ask what the current process is, how the information can be accessed by the public, and what additional cost, if any, would be involved. I think he may be the best positioned to answer those questions.
And thank you, Supervisor and Ag Commissioner. I didn't see you come in, and I couldn't see you sitting there behind the dais. So please go forward.
Good morning. How does this work? It's on. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, CEO Angelo, and County Council Elliott. Information requested by Supervisor Williams. We do get that.
We would need your name for the record, sir.
Harinder Grewal, Agriculture Commissioner and Sealer of Weights and Measures. So the information requested by Supervisor Williams, we do get pesticide use monthly reports every month. And 10th of every month, all the applicators in county must submit their pesticide use reports. And but with that pesticide use report, we don't get the APN number. We don't ask for APN number. State Department of Pesticide Regulation, they don't ask for APN number, but we do get all other information. And 90% of the information is reported through CalAg system. It's online system, and 10% they still do the old way, fill out the papers and drop those off with County Ag Commissioner's Office. So we do have that information. But when it comes to compile that information and transfer that information or put that on website, that will be extra work, or it will be a burden on staff to do all that work. And two, staff is not skilled with that kind of work. So help, training will be needed. If any other department, IS, if they can do that, then it is possible. But let me explain now. Pesticide use report must be submitted by 10th of every month, but many growers, many farmers like my family, we farm 2,000 acres of almonds and walnuts, and whenever we are done with pesticide application, someone from my family, they put that information right in CalAg. So if we did the pesticide application on 1st of month, that evening we will put the information in CalAg permit. And there are many, they will submit that on 10th. So there are many application information is submitted in CalAg online system the day it's done. So that will be, somebody need to keep eye on CalAg, and if the application is done, and then, every 15 days to report that through CalAg, transferring that information to county website. So somebody need to keep eye on that and make sure, as requested, that information is transmitted to county website within 15 days. So that staff will need time to keep track on all the applications submitted with CalAg and transfer that to county website.
We do have a couple of questions. Supervisor Williams, then Supervisor Jurdy.
If we were to replace accessor parcel number with location, would we have 100% of the requested data without any additional work?
Yes, we do get pesticide use report, and pesticide use report does give a site ID number and field location number.
Okay, so I would be willing to make that change so that there wouldn't be any additional work for your department to collect the data. As far as publishing, if I were to assist information services with automating this so that a script runs periodically, takes the data we have and generates the web content ready to publish, would that fully remove the burden from your department?
Yes, if it's automated and if it's done with through IS, then yes, it can be done.
Supervisor Jurdy?
I would just ask for clarification. Were you saying that at your family's farm, that's 2,000 acres of almonds, et cetera, are you saying that your family is entering that data onto a state website?
Yes.
Correct. It's a
And-
web
okay.
program,
I was just wondering if there's some way of
software program.
information that gets loaded to the state website could then just be transmitted electronically to the county rather than, I mean, I totally agree with eliminating paper wherever we can, and it just sounds silly in a way that people are turning in a piece of paper to the county ag department, and then it gets uploaded, I guess, into a state website. It seems like it should just all be automated.
And actually, I asked the commissioner for examples of the pesticide use reports that are being made, and there are two different types. And some go to the software program, CalAg, and submit it. But we still have individuals that are involved in agricultural that have to do the reports by hand and turn them in. But I'd like to share these with you if you'd like to take a look at the reporting. So Supervisor Haschak?
Yes, I just had a phone call yesterday with a constituent who was concerned about pesticide usage right next door, and it had to do with well water, and certainly that would be a major concern for a person in this world that we live in. Getting that information seems like you wouldn't have to require a Public Records Act request. And so I appreciate this effort to kind of streamline what we're doing. And if we can do it without creating more work for the Ag Department, and we can do it electronically, it seems like this is the way we need to go as far as becoming, people in the 21st century to provide the information that we need. So if we're not duplicating systems and we're not requiring additional staff time, it seems like this is a way to go. Thank you.
So, yes, Ag Commissioner, do you have a response to Supervisor Haschak? So he received a call of concern. What could that constituent do? Call your office and receive information?
Yes, if I may, through Chair. All over in all 58 counties, if any information is needed regarding pesticide or any other information, then yes, they do have to submit Public Records Act request, and within 10 days we respond to that. But transferring data from CalAg to county website to make it automated, that will not be possible. The reason for that is I did reach out to CalAg. CalAg online permit system is sponsored by CACASA, California Ag Commissioners Association, and it is decision by CACASA a long time ago that they will not give password to anyone else except the users. So we still have to put that information in Excel spreadsheet, and that Excel spreadsheet with all that information, we can provide that to IS Information Services.
Okay. Thank you, and we're going to go to public comment. Oh, hang on. No, Louis, we already have a speaker card. Supervisor Haschak.
So just to be clear, then being able to automate it in this way wouldn't require real staff time on your part, is it?
Yes, if I may, through Chair. We do have to come up with Excel spreadsheet, and yes, we can come up with Excel spreadsheet and provide that information to IS. And if it's once a month, that will be helpful, because if it's like every time when pesticide use report is submitted in CalAg, so one of the staff member need to keep eye on CalAg, and once that application information is submitted, if it's required to transfer that every 15 days, that will be staff time we will need.
Okay, Supervisor Williams?
So to recap, the changes that I would suggest to the recommended action based on the Ag Commissioner's input: change assessor parcel number to location, and change within 15 days to once per month.
Okay, we do need to go to public comment. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So this will be the time for public comment on this item. I do have a speaker's card. Mr. Pauly? It's Mr. Pauly.
Oh, you want to go, Polly?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors. My name is Frost Pauly. I'm the president of the Mendocino County Farm Bureau. Mendocino County Farm Bureau is concerned about item 6A. As we heard from our Ag Commissioner, pesticide use reporting is already being conducted. It's a system that works well. We use CalAg permits, and as does every county in the state, to collect this information and provide it to the public. That information is available to the public through DPR. It is available in aggregate form. That's partially in order to protect private property information and people's personal information. This will be a costly endeavor for the county. There's no way to possibly fully automate this system. We heard that from the Ag Commissioner. Even if we bring in IT and we work to try to streamline it, which I think is a good idea on its face anyhow, there's no way to fully automate this system because we're dealing with a state. And anytime we're dealing with a state, we're going to have some of our local staff time involved in order to get that to work both ways. Another thing, and maybe the Ag Commissioner can clarify this, since he's clearly the expert, there's a vetting process when information is collected from producers, and DPR is currently the one that does that vetting process on the information that's collected. If the county simply takes that information and it has only 15 days, there's a likelihood that that information, once up on the website, on the county website, would not be fully vetted, and certainly not without additional county staff time. This will also be a burden to our ag producers who are already complying with all the rules and regulations on the books. We'll have to follow additional rules if this comes into existence. I appreciate the issue, Mr. Williams, of easing the rules on the parcel issue. That's one of my biggest concerns, is the partial issue, because, as you guys know, fields don't follow parcel lines. And if you have a field that is split into 4 different parcels, for example, now you're dealing with 4 reports instead of 1. Currently, producers are making these reports based on a location, by GPS coordinates, and by physical addresses. So you're encompassing the whole ranch, not individual parcels. So there would be a large burden on growers if it were to be a parcel. So I appreciate you slacking on our pulling that back. But it is still duplicative for producers to provide this information if they're doing it again. And it sounds to me like if they're already doing Cal Ag permits and then they're required by the county to provide this information for public, for the county website, they're going to have to submit it twice, and thereby it would be duplicative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bigfoot.
I had a question for the speaker.
Go ahead, you want to?
No, go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, CEO. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, supervisors. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing this up. Measure V is still in limbo. The use of herbicides by the forestry, Mendocino Redwoods, is still in limbo. Can you imagine? The thing I want to bring up really is that, this is a threat to humanity. The use of herbicides threatens humanity. The latest trend is to have cancer centers everywhere. That's the latest trend. See it on TV. Come on in, I got a cancer center, everything's just fine. It's not fine. Nobody's saying that pesticides lead to cancer in this chamber right now. I want you all to agree with me. Pesticides are not okay. I don't care what other people say that are using them. They're wrong. It's that simple. So what I'd like to do is do a resolution that says no more pesticides by anybody. Just forget it. Find a way out. What can we do to get out of this dilemma to reduce the cancer centers in the United States? I mean, in everywhere. It's a disease. We're under attack by the chemical industry. That's what this is, a frontal attack. Thank you for listening.
Yes, yeah, thanks. Hang on just 1 minute, please. I believe we may have another speaker that would like to come forward under public comment. Ms. Jones, did you want to speak to this?
Excuse me, I've got a bit of a head cold. Devin Jones, Mendocino County Farm Bureau. And I think you've seen our comment letter. You've seen the remarks from our president, Frost Pauley. And I guess maybe just one quick thing to add, premised off the previous speaker and his concerns, is that this is, overall related to the bigger picture, some of these other issues that you've been dealing with lately in the comments that we submitted, for example, on looking at technologies, futuristic technologies, genetic technologies that I've mentioned in the past. We might get to the point where we could look into developing resistance for pests, resistance for disease, and reduce the need as those technologies move into the future for needing to do applications for some of these materials. So just remember, in the bigger picture of things, there's a lot of these issues that come before you that are connected, and that the agricultural industry has significantly improved upon the use of these materials over the last 50 years. And if you wanted to go back through that DPR website that lists those applications by year, you can see the reduction in the quantity of materials that have been applied. So it's not like this is something that's done as a free-for-all. This is something that's done using recommendations from pest control advisors. This is done on something based on research and what is available. So just to bring that forward. Thank you.
Mr. Pauly, I believe Supervisor Williams had a question I'd like to ask you.
I actually have two questions for Mr. Pauly. The first was...
Do my best to answer.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. I heard you state that this would place additional burdens on ag producers. And I'm confused about that because my understanding is this data is already collected, and this action would not add any additional requirements for the ag producers to supply more data. It would only require that the county publish the data that's collected.
So my fear, and that's an excellent question, my fear is that currently ag producers are providing this information to DPR. It's collected by by the program, and it goes to DPR. If the county ag commissioner is required to report that in 15 days, likely they would also have to get that information directly from the growers and then put it on the website.
Understood. So if I may, I think my suggestion was to change the within 15 days to monthly.
You're
would
correct.
that,
I'm sorry.
Would that remove the burden on the ag producer? Because
So,
they wouldn't be submitting any additional data.
I think that this might be a question for Dr. Graywall, because the information, as I understand it, goes to DPR. DPR vets it, however long that takes. Even if it's 30 days, for the ag commissioner to take that information, get it back from DPR vetted, and then put it onto our county website, you might not be able to do that in 30 days. That'd be a question for him. In which case, you would probably have to get that information directly from the grower, and it would have to be put on the website unvetted.
So to clarify there, the intention is to publish the vetted data, and monthly means it's always trailing behind. And so I don't see us putting any additional burden on the ag producers to supply additional data. This is only a matter of being transparent and publishing the data that we already have. And then the second question I had was, I heard you state that we could not fully automate the process of data extraction and publication because we are working with the state. And I'm confused. The state is electronic. We have electronic access. Why do you believe we could not automate the process?
My interpretation of what our ag commissioner stated here at this lectern was that it would still require a county staff person to take that information from the state and to put it onto a county website.
Thank you. I appreciate the answers. And Chair, if I may, at some point, I'd like to follow up with our ag commissioner to get clarification.
Absolutely. But we do, hang on, Janelle. We do have IT here. Is that what you were going to say? Okay. Well, get up. I'm sorry.
Janelle Rao, Deputy CEO, and I am here representing your Information Services Division, and I do have your division manager as well as our lead staff that's really the individual and staff resource that does the programming and scripting on behalf of the county. They did have the opportunity to very briefly meet with the Ag Commissioner, and I believe that was yesterday, and discuss some of the automation as referenced by Supervisor Williams. There are definitely automated opportunities with this. We do have a few limitations that would need to be worked out through our website, and then extracting the content from the state. There may be some manual portions of this that would be an operational requirement of the ag staff. But that's, I mean, I'm only speaking in very general terms because, again, this just came up yesterday. So I have them here to answer any questions that may come up. We do have staff that can write scripts. I mean, we definitely have that capability. So whatever the board's direction is, we would work with the ag commissioner in the state to make that happen.
So, gentlemen, did you want to come up and state anything further?
Sure. Alex Land, Operations Manager, Information Services. I don't want to overstate or understate how difficult it might be to pull the data out of the state website. They're not always forthcoming with providing data transfer mechanisms. And we can screen scrape. There might be some things. I haven't looked at it. You know, automation is certainly possible, but there will definitely be some manual processes involved. You know, and I don't know how much those will be because we just got this. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Ag Commissioner, Dr. Graywell, I believe Supervisor Williams wanted some clarifications, or?
Yes.
Commissioner, we heard from the Farm Bureau president a concern about the amount of manual time to monthly open the data in an Excel spreadsheet and send that on to IS. Can you describe how much staff time and hours that would take?
If I may, through chair.
Yes.
If we do it on monthly basis, not every 15 days, then the automation, like grabbing the data from state DPR website, yes, you can do that, but they are always few years behind. Grabbing the information or data from CalAg, that must be done through Ag Commissioner because IS will not have password and we can't give password to information services. It will be what I think, because I'm playing with this for last few days, and it will be almost like somewhere close to 10 hours or so work for us.
10 hours to
Yes.
access this website and save the data off as a spreadsheet?
Yes. And also because we have to sometime clean up the errors too. And that, once we collect the data on 10th of every month, it's not that we report that to DPRs same day or next week. It depends when staff have time to do that. We have 12 contracts, and sometimes we do get behind, like still we have to report March and April data to state.
So the data that we obtain from the state has errors that require correcting?
Yes. No, the data you will get from state, if I may through chair, that will be a correct data, but you are 2 years behind. DPR is 2 years behind. So if you go to DPR website, you will see 2016 data. They are still behind. They still have to come up with 2017 and 18 data.
And if we use the CalAg data, you're telling us there are errors that have to be manually corrected?
Yes. We do. And this is how it works, if I may through chair.
Yes.
All the growers, they submit notice of intent, and notice of intent shows what pesticide they are going to use on on which sites. And then the application takes place. And when the application takes place, 10th of every month, they submit pesticide use reports. So what we do when we look at the data, we just make sure that notice of intent information does match with your pesticide use report. So those are the corrections we make. If there are any red flags, we see, well, this is what was asked and this is what they use. And so that's when we go back and we ask, well, the correction needs to be done.
I would think we would need to correct that data irrespective of this request to publish. We don't want to leave inaccurate data floating out in the cloud. So I don't see that additional work as being tied to this request because it needs to be done irrespective. And then I guess my final question is, today I see that the public does access this data through Public Records Act requests. And so seems to me we're already going through this process periodically. And I imagine if we're having to manually correct, we're having to manually correct before we respond to the PRAs.
Yes.
Is that
if I-
accurate?
If I may, through the chair,
Yes.
yes. When we get the Public Records Act request, we respond to that within 10 days. So we have 10 days to make the corrections and respond to that request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor McCowan, did you?
Well, so it is required that a notice of intent be filed in advance of application, and then an additional report afterward saying what was actually applied, correct?
Yes.
But the public's ability to know about that intent may be limited. I mean, how would someone gain that information?
Can you repeat your question, Supervisor
Well,
McCollum?
if someone wanted to know in advance of application, what would be their mechanism to request the notice of intent that an application would take place?
It will be same Public Records Act request.
And by the time that request was filed and fulfilled, the application would probably already have taken place. You know, part of my concern, who is there who lives next to a vineyard, an orchard, or industrial timberland who is not aware that pesticides are being applied? Who doesn't have that knowledge that this
Or
activity is
herbicides.
occurring, you know?
Or herbicides? And
That's just a comment.
Supervisor Hascheck?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess the question is then, how long does it take for your office to deal with one of these Public Records Act requests?
By law, we're supposed to respond within 10 days, and we do.
But how long does it take a person working and getting that information together?
It depends upon the request, you know, what kind of data they are asking. So it depends, each and every request is different.
So it could be very short to kind of time consuming.
Yes. One of the, for example, just I think a month ago, we got public record request for 2016, all the applications done in 2016. So that was very time consuming. So it depends, each and every request is different.
And then, Dr. Graywell, I would like to ask, there's certain types of pesticides that cannot be used unless you get a special application permit from you. Is that correct? Then the general ones?
There are some pesticides that does need special permit.
And what does the Ag Department do at that time? Maybe it's an infestation or something that's occurring that it needs to be used. I can't think of the examples at the moment, but how do you work with the applicator and the landowner?
Yes, the process is same. Once we get the request, and we just follow the DPR process. And most of the time, these are special pesticide that are approved by DPR. So we just look at what you are asking, if that is approved by DPR, and we look at the site and we look at the request, and if it can be approved, we do approve that, and that process takes time.
So DPR actually has the list,
Yes,
and there are protocols that need to be followed
yes,
and followed even during application. There's also integrated pest management, which is a whole different style, organically. And I know that even biodynamic farmers need to come to the training classes because of the dusting that they do, which is organic materials. I mean, so there's a lot of ins and outs with that.
yes. We do, twice a year, we do hold pesticide use enforcement workshops to help the applicators, you know, these are the laws, this is what you need to do. So we do those workshops.
And for the PRA requests, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone needs to come directly into the office. They can actually fax or email to your office a PRA request. How does that work?
That's true. You can email.
Okay. So they can submit electronically, and that's the same as handwritten, or doesn't have to be handwritten, but is generating it right inside your office. That's not always necessary.
No, you can email, you can fax, or you can handwrite and drop it off with the Commissioner's office.
Okay. Supervisor Haschak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It seems like, this information is needed for the people, and that they shouldn't have to go through the Public Records Act request. But I don't want to put on an extra burden onto the Ag Department or to the farmers, so I think that we ought to direct staff to meet the Ag Department with the IS and try to figure out how to do this in the most expedient way, and to come back with a report to tell us what they can do and to make sure that it's not creating a burden on anyone. And I just think that we have a lot of information here. We should just move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor McCowan?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I share Supervisor Haschak's concerns about not creating additional burdens for the Ag Department or IT or ag producers. And if all those details can be worked out to where it's essentially a fully automated system and it's not a significant burden on staff, I could support that. It is public information. People have an absolute right to know. But as we all know, many of our county employees are really under the gun trying to keep up with their day-to-day duties and additional things we've assigned to them. And we do have to be mindful about the impact to staff capacity when we make new requests of them. So I support having staff confer and see, is there a time-effective, time-efficient way of making this information more accessible?
Supervisor Williams?
Yeah, question for supervisors. We seem to be derailing a little bit talking about training and regulation of pesticides and burden on ag producers. And I guess I don't see that any of those topics are relevant to this matter. This matter is we've collected data. I'm suggesting that we make it available to the public. It's purely about local government being transparent. It's not about additional burdens. It's not about training or whether they should use it. It's just we have some information. Let's publish it so the public can make use without going through a PRA.
Supervisor McCowan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The last time I made a comprehensive review of the county website, it was astounding the number of errors of basic information, that things weren't being updated, and I think it's often the case. No one is really assigned to stay on top of that. Now, we live in hope of of improvement, but websites do have to be updated constantly. It does require somebody's time. We have the information. Is there a time-effective way to make that more readily available? I think that's worth looking into before we give the direction to move forward.
And I would also like to comment, and respectfully, Supervisor Williams.
My last comment, I realize I'm probably out of time here. I think...
I have a statement to make.
Oh, first.
First.
By all means.
Thank you. I disagree with you on training, reporting. There's a lot of regulation that surrounds the use of any chemicals, whether they're organic or not. Pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, also pest management. When the house is tarped next to you by pest control officer, what happens then? I think all the knowledge, and the more knowledge that people have, it gives them more confidence in government and what's going on. So I just wanted to push back on your comment. It is important, the training, education that goes along with that. So respectfully, I disagree.
So
Supervisor Williams.
I don't know that we disagree necessarily. My point was this agenda item is about releasing data that we've collected. It's not that I disagree about training being important or any of the other things you brought up. I think we tend to agree. I just wanted to stay on track that this is not about, I don't want to have motion creep and start throwing other items into what's an attempt to be transparent.
And again, respectfully, there was only one sentence. There really wasn't background to be able to understand how this was coming forward, and a lot of the concerns needed to be expressed in the summary of the item, which there was only one sentence.
Well, there's not a lot to it, and that's why there's one sentence. I mean, we could go in a different direction and say the number of business licenses should be public, or the cost of a cannabis program should be in real time available to the public. Throughout the county, we're missing data. People make better decisions with data. And so this is one attempt to maybe create a little bit of pain. The pain is the catalyst for us to come up to speed on the modern world. And I don't think we should be saying our website has errors, is outdated, nobody's maintaining it, and therefore we can't be transparent. Instead, we should be saying, we have this problem, we need to begin addressing it. Here's one place we can begin.
Okay. Well, and Supervisor Jurdy?
So I think Supervisor Hashak had the beginnings of a motion, which would be to have county staff meet, Ag Department, IS, other appropriate county staff meet together and look for ways to make this as automated as possible. Before staff brings this back as a project, that they would independently meet, and I'm not saying it has to be in the same meeting, it could be two separate meetings, I don't really care, with stakeholders in the community and with Supervisor Williams, and then bring forward a proposal back to the board.
Second.
Hang on, I don't know if that was his motion or not. Supervisor Haschek?
I assume that was the follow-up to the beginnings of a motion, and I second it.
Okay. Now we're going to start over. Because this is for the record. It's very important for us to get it right and into the record. So who's making the motion? And I want it restated so the clerk can get it.
I'll make the motion.
Let's hear it.
For County Ag Department and IS and other appropriate county staff to meet to identify a process that would be as automated as possible to upload the information, and to independently meet with stakeholders and Supervisor Williams prior to bringing forward a work plan back to the board.
Second.
Okay. Just want to make sure the clerk has it. Yes.
Just to clarify, I have the motion that the Agricultural Department and the Information Services and other appropriate county staff meet to identify a process that is as automated as possible to upload information and to independently meet with stakeholders and Supervisor Williams prior to bringing a work plan back to the board. Is that correct? Thank you.
Okay. It's been a motion by Supervisor Jurdy, just read by the clerk, a second by Supervisor Haschek. Seeing no other comment.
Can I have just a comment for clarification?
Yes,
I don't
sir.
want to necessarily add more to the motion, but just to clarify that the intent is to make it as streamlined as possible, as automated as possible, both for the county staff and for the members of the public who are providing this data. And I don't know if that needs to be part of the motion or not, but that's the intent.
I've amended it so as automated and streamlined as possible for both the staff and the public. Is that correct? Thank you.
Supervisor Williams?
Would you accept changing the word upload to publish?
Sure, although we're not talking about the printing press.
Supervisor Haschak, are you agreeable to
Sure.
the amendment? Clerk, you have that?
I do. Thank you.
All righty. We'll vote by the button.
Motion carries unanimously.
So this will come back and to the board at a later date. So we are going to go now to break.